Well, hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Now we have deep dives for Sauron and the Toad, and whilst we do not have the full ability description and there will be some details missing, we can kind of get a very good idea about what these characters are going to be. However, it's very important to remember that these deep dives do not reflect well on the actual power levels of the champions and the numbers and things like that, and it's far too early to draw any meaningful conclusions. Deep dives do great job showcasing champion in general, showing their rotations and just, educating you somewhat about the champion, but you cannot judge whether it's going to be amazing, bad, good, quite well with them. That being said, let's see the first thing. So first and foremost, always active immunity to power steal and poison. Now the thing that is interesting is that there is no immunity to power drain or power burn, so it's only the power steal. So it's kind of like Doctor Doom, but for instance vision will still work. So it's going to be very interesting to see which champions do and do not work against Sauron. However, the poison immunity supplemented with a 95% bleed immunity means that he is more than likely going to be extremely liquid courage double-edged friendly champion, which kind of automatically makes me want to get the guy. So he's going to be absolutely poison immune, means he cannot, he doesn't get his regeneration reduced by that poison. Also, his regeneration rate cannot be decreased by outside sources. And then he's going to be healing from the bleed, basically like Corvus does. And on top of that, you get some critical resistance whilst you are bleeding, which can come in handy in some matchups, but is not really the biggest deal. Then we're going to have, when Sauron is struck, 30% chance to gain power, to gain a regen passive, healing 10% of the damage taken per personal prowess effect, which, fine. And then we have light attacks have 35% chance to deal 50% of damage dealt as burst physical damage. This ability can also trigger through block, so there's some extra damage that you can enhance later on. Interesting thing is, everything about Sauron works through passive effects. Effectively, all the regions, all the passives, pretty much everything else is passive. And that I kind of do like. Now, you can gain a Fury buff by dropping heavy attack and sacrificing 3 of your prowess effects. Fury is passive and lasts only 4 seconds, but we do not know exactly how potent that Fury is, unfortunately. But we do know that he has something called Extinction Mode, which is basically when he kind of goes to his most powerful state. While at 10 prowess passives, when you hit the opponent, inflict a degeneration passive dealing 1600 direct damage over 5 seconds. At the same time, increase physical burst potency by 50%. All personal abilities have 100% ability accuracy, and also if the degeneration passive from Extinction Mode expires, remove all prowess effects. And basically, when your Extinction Mode, the degeneration expires, then it's kind of like over, because you have removed all your prowesses. So you do not want to let that degen expire, which you can pause later on by different means. And moving on to the next set of abilities. First let's take a look at his signature ability. At the start of the fight, if the opponent attempts to inflict a bleed or incinerate effect while a degeneration passive is active, inflict the opponent with a passive version of that effect, dealing 12,000 damage over 2 seconds. This could actually be quite abused in some nodes. For instance, if you were to fight with Caltrops and you activate your degeneration, drop your special attack, pause the degeneration for 8 seconds, and just dash backwards and continuously apply this effect, which deals a ton of damage. So I do not think that Sauron is going to need his Sig ability to be functioning offensively. This ability is, fairly or extremely situational offensively. Defensively, it does make him much more annoying, because you obviously want to avoid using bleeders or incinerators. Increased personal prowess potency by flat 10%. It's nothing major, so I do not think Sauron will have to be necessarily awakened. However, if he is awakened, I think there will be some fun shenanigans that you can do. Another thing that you can see here is that you can have a very large special 3 degeneration that you charge. Every time a passive effect expires on you, you gain 1 charge. You can see currently it's right there at 10. You can charge it up until 30, and then you drop a level 3 and basically inflict a very big degeneration effect, which does quite a lot of fun damage. And well, his special 1 can let you heal. Special 1 can let you regenerate for 10 seconds of all the burst damage that you're doing to your opponent, and special 2 increases the potency of the burst damage, basically. He also can go unblockable whilst he is at 10 prowesses when you dash in, and he can actually maintain unblockability for quite a long time. And what was the case that I was trying to showcase here? I guess it was the unblockables and the level 1s, but he can do some quite solid damage. Again, it's very hard to judge exactly what that damage is going to look like once we actually get to play with him. But, you know, I don't think he's going to be the hardest hitting mutant, but I do think that he's quite interesting. Now, the initial impressions a lot of people have about Sauron are that he's going to be quite an annoying defender because of his unblockables and because he's going to be regenerating whilst he's getting hit and things like that. There are already quite a lot of comments being made that he's kind of designed for Path 6 on Alliance War defense, and that in general he's going to be quite pesky to fight against. And whilst I have no doubts that he will be one of those champions where you really do want to manage prowess, so you will want to use like Nimrod or War Machine or probably some new champion that's going to get released in a couple of months that can remove prowess effects and benefit from that. And yeah, I do expect him to be somewhat annoying on defense. I also look quite hopeful for him offensively, because those two do not have to be exclusive. And I do think that in between both of the immunities, access to prowess, access to passive degen, and unblockable, there could be something with this guy. And I kind of want him. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want him. You can take a look at the synergies, and this synergy with Annihilus is actually very, very important. Stifle durations increased by 4 seconds. That's quite a lot. And reduce offensive combat rate by additional 15%, which means you can be a lot more aggressive. So I think with this, you will be able to routinely get many more stifles on the opponent, and by extension, many more furies. So I'm very interested how this synergy is going to affect Annihilus. But Sauron, when landing a dash attack, the bleed damage inflicted now does... Oh yes, when landing a dash attack, you can also inflict a passive bleed on the opponent. When landing a dash attack, the bleed damage inflicted now does 100% more damage, and the duration increased by 20%. So it's kind of neat. But how many dash attacks are going to be landing, so I don't know how much you're going to end up benefiting from it. Airwalker synergy doesn't matter, because it's Airwalker. Exhaust burn only costs 5 core charges, and the non-stacking Incinerate debuff does additional 20% damage. That's not too bad. It's quite decent for Vulture. And this synergy is actually really good. So Sauron, Beast, and Sasquatch. All synergy members gain 15% attack rating for being under 50% health, an extra 25% attack rating for being under 20% health. So if you're ever playing with low health pools, and you're using these champions with, like, you know, level 1 revive, which is 20% health, and take a single parry, that means that your champions will get a 40% attack increase, which is kind of cool. Which is, again, situational, but still neat. And also, while under 20% health, each champion gets additional effect, whether you gain more crit damage, crit resist, or combat power rate in case of Sasquatch. And even more combat power rate on Sasquatch could potentially be quite scary thing as well. Havoc gets a decent synergy as well. Upon consuming 1 bar of power, you gain 20% prowess passive for 6 seconds, so not too bad. And Sauron gains an armor up passive for 6 seconds, which unfortunately is passive, but I don't know. I don't think this is going to be particularly useful. It would be more useful if it was an active buff. And then we have this weird synergy with Mr. Sinister and Doctor Strange, where whenever opponent regens, you gain a tiny regen yourself, and once you do it 4 times, you instead inflict a heal block. It's just a very weird synergy. I just don't understand why it is there. There has to be some comic lore behind it, because I just don't get it. The regen, you get is tiny, and then you can heal block eventually. But, all good. And last synergies with Kitty Pryde and Dragon Man increase the duration of incinerate debuffs by 10% and passives by 15% on Kitty Pryde, so it's nothing too great. Dragon Man, if no power charges are active, special 2 attack inflicts up to 3 additional incinerate debuffs, which is actually very cool, which means that a single level 2 you can go and detonate it up. So that, is going to be quite helpful. And Sauron basically can incinerate opponents with his special attacks now, if he's at max health whilst he's using them, which he can be because he regenerates. So we'll see whether that is any useful synergy. But that is about it. So what do I think of Sauron? He definitely looks somewhat pesky on defense. Can't deny that. But there are things that I like about him offensively. Quite obvious that I have long abandoned trying to judge champions by deep dives, because honestly they're all over the place. Like, Null looks way worse in his deep dive than he has any right to do. And then there are champions that look significantly better in their deep dives than they actually turn out being. How it is going to work out with Sauron, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, because the timers seem quite tight. All of the benefits that you get from level 1, level 2, they're like 10 seconds flat, and then that fury you gain from heavy attack is only for 4 seconds, so you basically always will have to parry, heavy, cancel into special if you really want to benefit from it. So, once again, I do think that this champion's success or downfall is gonna hide in the numbers and how it actually works out with him in the contest. But at the very least, so far from everything that I have seen, it definitely has piqued my interest. I do think there is quite a lot of potential for him to be very useful character. Obviously, all that potential can be squandered by a kit that doesn't necessarily flow together well, or underwhelming numbers, or one thing or another. But as of right now, I am interested in Sauron much more than I was before watching the deep dive. That being said, let me know what you guys think. Do you think he will be awesome? It's obvious that we were lacking good mutant characters, so it's finally about time that we start the year with some interesting new mutants, right? See you guys.
Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the